Welcome back to the Teacher's AI Café. I'm Kane, a teacher and a parent who wants AI to give us back our time. I share practical classroom-tested AI strategies to cut down your workload, improve your feedback and reduce stress so you can get your evenings back and be more present with your friends and family. No jargon, just actionable steps. Grab your mug. Now let's get going. Welcome back to today's episode. I'm really happy to have my friend David here today. He's the first teacher that's actually from the private sector here in WA. So welcome, Dave.
Thank you, and thanks for inviting me on your show.
Yes, it's really good. Tell me a bit about your educational journey.
I've been teaching since about 2020 in the digital technology space, but I've always been involved in helping other teachers use technology in their classroom, following that career for many years. I've even worked as a help desk person and network administrator at a school. But yeah, currently heavily involved in helping other teachers use technology.
That's cool. And I guess for the listeners, we're actually recording outdoor at a cafe for the first time. So if you hear a bit more background noise than I normally have, that's why. We've got cars going past and people cleaning and dishes getting clanked. But hopefully the AI software will actually edit most of that out for us.
Certainly going to be a challenge, I think.
I really like having Dave on my podcast. We actually met, how long ago now? It was...
it'd have to be like 9 or 10 years ago.
9 or 10 years ago, where we're actually both invited to an Apple roundtable in Sydney. So we actually flew separately and actually met in Sydney and actually got to know each other from there with some other colleagues. Talking about back then, the big craze was coding. Teaching everyone to code, which has disappeared to a degree, hasn't it? Yes.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those odd things. But I think that's typical of the technology space. There's always something going on that is leaping out there, and something that we have to investigate and see as educators if there's benefits of following that.
Yeah.
And the key thing about coding is I always think about is learning to problem solve and break things down into smaller parts. And, that's a skill that you can apply anywhere.
Yeah, I guess in terms of coding, do you guys use at your school? Do the students use or going to use AI for their coding projects?
I definitely think that's something that we're investigating this year more and more. I think it's just that tricky thing waiting to see, I suppose, how Apple handles it in different ways. We use Swift as a language and Swift UI. Our students normally learn to code in playgrounds. There's no AI in playgrounds as far as I know yet.
Not that I know of, no.
No, that's it. And I think it's in Xcode, but in a very limited way. So I know this year it is saying that's going to be investigated. I'm not actually involved in that process at the moment, but I'm keen to see what others at the school are going to do.
Have you actually tried to use AI with coding yourself?
I've had a couple of plays with it. I was actually trying to make my own AI bot in a website. So it was downloading a local model and then having that sort of available and then getting ChatGPT to create the web interface for that. I suppose the challenges was in a lot of ways, I had no idea, I've never done something like that before. So it was hard for me to follow through the code with it, but it did a reasonable job. And I actually got, I suppose, a proof of concept that we could pretty much have our own model on site and use that for whatever we need to.
Yeah. Funny, we were talking off microphone about vibe coding. And I guess I've done a bit of coding, use ChatGPT, and we're talking about how it'll often... What were you saying about you're trying to put it all together or was making code that big, more bloated program as opposed to someone who knows how to code trying to make a app out of it?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of tech people and what they're doing in this space. And some of it, they were saying they were frustrated with not writing good code. The example they gave was not refactoring the code. So if you're not familiar with that idea, it's you create modules or libraries of your work that are repeated throughout your program. Efficiency-wise, if you know you need to change that to work in a different way, you only go to that one place. Where they were saying the AI that they were using was quite happy to rewrite that code in multiple places, and they were struggling with that. Yeah, I think if you had no idea about coding, you would think your app is running really well, but at some stage, if you need to go back and make it better, or make a change, you're relying on the AI to know exactly where those lines of code are and getting it right when it makes the change.
Yeah, even when I'm just giving it a roll, I found when I've played with a bit, been writing an app with it, and I found that I'd get a bit of code, I really like it, and then I want to make some small modifications to it. And when it does, it wouldn't fix the thing I want to do, but then it'd change something else. So when you're trying to do the incremental changes, because AI often gives it. If you ever put a question in, you get a different answer to the same question. The variations of that. It doesn't really work well with coding. Even when I tell it, don't change all this code, just change this bit, it will then modify something else. So I then preview and it looks totally different.
Yes.
And you go down a never-ending spiral of trying to fix the thing that it broke in the first place, where at the same time it's changed everything else. And I realized I had to get to a point, I had to go all the way back up the chat where I did the first change, learn from what it actually tried to do, and be a lot more explicit in my prompt, what I was trying to do, to try and get the result I wanted in the first place. And sometimes that's taken me a long time, like 20, 30 minutes of going through this, almost a rabbit hole of trying to fix one thing by breaking something else.
I think, and that's what I experienced when I was like toying with this AI bot website, is the same thing. Is so when it didn't get something right and I asked it to fix it, then that thing that was working previously suddenly broke. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't really know why you're doing that change when I've asked for one change. Yeah. But I guess that's just inherent in the way that generative AI works. It's just predicting what to write next. And it may be like the way it's at the moment is it's difficult for it to go, oh, this stuff's okay, I only need to change this bit, where it tries to rewrite the whole app every single time. Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the solution, but as we're discussing, is there a future for software developers, or as many?
Yeah.
It's funny, you look at I hear these things, the charts of, I guess, my career background. There was this massive hiring, and then it fell off a cliff of software developers. People saying this because AI took over, but other people were arguing, no, it's just that AI companies have been hiring all these people, and then they stopped hiring because they got their models to the state where they wanted it, and they didn't need any more staff.
Yeah, so it's an interesting time, I think, for the industry, because I think there was a flood of people learning how to code and creating and going into that as their career, and now that's flooded with people, and then AI's come along and seemingly being told that it's going to replace a lot of those jobs. It's quite interesting to see what's going to happen.
Well, that's what happened in, I guess, IT as well. In the early 2000s, lots of people looked at coders as a career because it made lots of money, not because they actually like computers.
Yes, that's actually a great point. Yeah.
Getting that money in there. So getting back on education, what I'm interested in, I guess, my listeners as well, is that you're in the private sector, and here in WA, you actually have more freedom than us in the public sector at this point. So in terms of your context of school, what's happening around AI? I guess at a school level, and also maybe what you're doing eventually with students.
Yeah, I think at our school, when AI first came on, we made some big choices to actually start investigating it, talk to students about it. So this was 2 years ago, and we did like sort of education videos, and we had a really good guest speaker come in. His name was Leon Furs, who was around that time doing a PhD in AI, and it was just like perfect timing for him to be an expert. And then, so slow at that point, it was pretty much there, but we just stayed in that state of trying to decide where to go from that point. Not necessarily stagnating, but there wasn't a clear sort of answer of what to do, because all the different platforms out there, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, they weren't actually, I don't think, ready for releasing in a classroom environment. Yeah. And one of our fears was definitely about the privacy of the data that we're putting into it and not knowing what's happening with that, and also protecting, I suppose, our IP and things like that. Oh, sorry.
Yep. So I know where you're going, where you ended up.
Yeah.
Where you're going, but did you try anything else? Any other platforms? But you have to name them. What's the experience of trying some of the less major platforms?
We investigated a few of the school targeted ones that were basically going with the idea that they use APIs to connect it to the, I suppose, like ChatGPT is probably the biggest one that they would have done it.
AI sort of thing.
Yeah. And then you're basically paying for token access. So as their engine goes off and gets the answer, there's a cost to that. And they're quite reasonably priced, because I think if you've looked into not paying like that monthly fee to these ones, if you just use an API access, they can actually be quite a bit cheaper, but then you still have to have a front end, stuff like that. But we looked at them, and in some ways they weren't just giving us what they wanted, and there was a lot of onus on the company to make it work the way that we wanted to. And then, and we had one instance where we bought a sort of trial to see how it would go. And it was just like very slow, and we were very nervous about going forward. So, so pretty much that was what we experienced. And I guess in some ways we were waiting for something to come along that met what we needed.
Oh, yeah. Because what's the platform you're... What sort of school are you? A general or a Microsoft school?
We are a Microsoft school, which certainly helped with our decision because it meant that we didn't have to switch platforms. But I don't think it really matters in that regard. In, say, you are currently a Google school or a Microsoft school, I think both platforms, the owners are coming up with a solution that will work in that environment. And at the end of the day, the LLMs that we're using all have their benefits and they have their weaknesses as well. And I think as time goes on, they're either going to be as good as they are now or they will get better. Time will tell on that.
And they all leapfrog each other anyway.
Absolutely.
For a while, I know Gemini's released a lot this week for their Google Classroom, and then Microsoft will come back with something else. And Claude was going down the teacher route as well. So
I think at some point with these sorts of things, you have to be honest, it's almost like, I know a lot of schools still have this like debate is should you be a Mac school or a Windows school? Like at the end of the day, the platform shouldn't really matter. It's what you're doing with it and what you're familiar with. And every time a debate like that comes up, you're like, well, the cost of that switch, is it really worth it? And you've got to weigh that up in that decision.
Training and building those expertise.
Yeah,
when you lose an employee, you get a new one, it takes them ages to get up to the same efficiency.
That's right. And I think sometimes that gets missed in some decisions. And it would be the same in this. If you suddenly went, oh, Gemini is now offering something great that switched to being a Google school. Wow, that's going to take a lot of money to get through that process.
Yes. And time.
And I suppose you could argue, oh, this is bad because of platform lock-in. But at the end of the day, you got to wait and see what happens. And
I find that I see all the shorts at the moment. Oh, they're the ones that are cancelling my ChatGPT because I'm going to Claude and things like that. Because Claude's just released this amazing new product on this new version.
Yeah.
And that's got a spice. But then they will come back and release something else. Oh, do I switch backwards or forwards? So it's easy often just to stick with the one you're really efficient at. And then I guess you hope over time that they get better and more efficient.
The funniest thing is I've found is that free level, most of them are the same. Yep. Like I'm using ChatGPT, Copilot, and Gemini as in their free mode, and you can pretty much jump into any of them and answer those low-level questions without much issue. It might be when you're actually getting extremely specific that you get the benefit out of, what the platform-specific stuff.
We're just seeing what happens because I know obviously Microsoft OpenAI is different. In Australia, the US, they've got ChatGPT for teachers. It's free. So I know models, if they give it away free to all the teachers and the educators, then I think hopefully long term, because they'll use that in their classrooms, that's will be the model the students have used. And then when they go in the workplace, they said, you should be using this model. It's the best, whether it's not or not. Because I remember years ago at one of the local universities, they gave away this free version of Unix to all the engineering students. So when they all graduated, when the businesses, they all bought this Unix system to use in their because that's what they used at uni. And it was given to them for free.
I've got to say, Kane can cut this if he wants to, but I did read like in the news this week was Google has been being investigated for they've got like emails and information saying that they are going to target schools. Sleeve, like they actually verbalized that somewhere, which and now is coming back to haunt them a little bit. But it's amazing all these companies are doing it. It's just you don't want to say it out loud, maybe. But so this would be exactly the same thing that's happening with that sort of like tech lock-in for like the Office suite as such. Is going to be happening with like how do we get this into kids' hands so that they continue using it after they finish school.
I thought you were going to mention Google getting sued about Android and recording private conversations on their Android phones. Did you read about that? Yes. The wake words apparently weren't that secure and it was waking up recording things which wasn't.
No, and there's so much litigation going on with these companies. But I do feel like there is an advantage to getting some of these products in a school environment and taking it. There's always that fine balance in education is we don't have much money. And we're trying to, you've got to make that say you decide to be a Google school. Google's doing it because they're hoping that their clients, your students are going to use it when they leave school, but also then you're getting something for it that you may not be able to afford if it
Yes.
wasn't done that way.
The government school, we all get Office for free and all the products for free.
Yeah.
So that's all the students know. So when they go into the workplace, which most Office use work anyway.
Yes, that's right.
You see that correlation. But at the same time, they're never introduced to anything else. My younger days, that you're old enough to remember as well, Word Perfect.
Yes.
How fantastic. As I was saying, it's so narrow the choices that they end up with because these companies dominate.
And I think the other thing, like at the moment, like Apple's an interesting character in this AI space because I feel like they definitely missed the boat.
They've actually said, they've got nothing.
And it's only recently that it's come out. They've done a sign up with Gemini is going to be their back end, but it will be done the Apple way.
How much
apparently
Google are paying for that?
Oh, apparently it's the other way, but it's very reasonably
Maybe
priced.
they'll balance out the payments for the Google search.
I think it's actually less. But what I find interesting is that, as a school, you get to decide, we're going to, like on that front, is I don't think Apple's going to make a school product. But if you're using any Apple product at your school, like in the coming future, you will ask Siri similar types of questions and get that, like I would assume for some of it for free. And there's added bonuses from that. So automatically your staff are either got the free Google or the free Copilot, but then they've got on their own device, maybe if they're an Apple user.
Apple Intelligence, whatever. Because originally it was OpenAI is what they went with that. Then they tried to build their own model, and apparently it was really bad. I was reading some reports
it's interesting, and I think it could be that thing that Google and Apple do seem to have a good relationship in some ways, even though they're competitors. But there's historical stuff going on there.
Not the Steve Jobs
that's right. Yeah. So no, it should be. I think this space. Nothing's set in stone yet. We're still in a state of flux.
It's very early days. And I was reading one report in the future, there's only going to be one AI because all the others will collapse it. And it will become a dystopian of lack of choice and control because there's one company who would control all the models.
I don't think that's happening. And I think even Microsoft in Copilot is now, they're heavily tied to ChatGPT, but there are ways of using Claude as using an agent and saying we want to use Claude for that. So I think even Microsoft's not putting all their eggs in one basket, which I actually think is great, like from them. That and I think they're actually even working on their own LLMs as well at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the future's still in flux.
Yes. Yeah, it's 3 years in and it is 3 years or is it 4 years now? No, it's coming out to 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years in. So most definitely. So in terms of, I guess, your school, what's AI like? Touch a bit off track, but how's the staff using it, or what's the actual school itself doing? A deliberate thing or a software approach?
It's now deliberate. So we're going through a process of, we've just told our staff that they can use Copilot and the students can use it. There's certain Australian regulations that, like, depending on the age of the students, whether they need parent permission or they shouldn't be using it at all. So I think from our junior school or primary school perspective, they shouldn't be using AI. And then I think we're looking at like somewhere between halfway through year 8, they can start using it.
That's like American middle school time.
Yeah, like we're working around that with our students. And basically we're saying we only want you to use Copilot while you're at school. We are even playing with the idea of like blocking the other ones for now, whether it will stay permanent. But the idea is like, we don't want people we want them to use Copilot. We don't want them using ChatGPT or Claude. And from the outset, I think blocking that internally, the other ones. But I think it's more done in that way of we just want to make sure we know what platform they're on. And the advantage is if we get them doing that, we know that we can track staff and students, what they're typing in is searchable. And say from a student perspective, it's safer for them. If a student types in saying that we think needs to be looked at further, we've got it there. Where if they go to ChatGPT, we've got no idea what's going on. So that's one thing. But from the staff perspective, we've released it to the staff and said, here you go. We're using the free one, which like in all sense is fine. Like it does the job. It gives us, I've seen some very funny responses from it, which I'm happy to share some of them because they are quite good. Like at the end of the day, I've seen some staff that I would think that we did a big PD with all our staff. We gave them time to play we showed them the bare minimum of what you could do. So there was no mention of, I think the free one does let you do notebooks, but actually it may not, but we didn't show them agents, which I think adds an extra layer.
Yes.
It was just basic prompting, how to get it to remember stuff, which is super important because at the moment it defaults to US English. So we were saying like, remember to only give me answers in Australian English.
And Copilot, do you have I don't use Copilot. Is there a preferences profile you can do?
Yeah, but there's no language selection.
No,
hopefully,
like in mine with my ChatGPT,
Yes.
in my profile, I said, I state,
Yes.
stay using it.
Yes.
Will always.
So there is an
Australian
area
English.
where you can put in like a block of stuff, but you can also tell it like remember this, and it will remember those facts.
That would they should remember it. Should always.
Yes, yeah, and that's what we're all learning on that day. Like it was
Okay,
a lot of the staff were turning around and going, "Hey, this is in American English.
Yeah.
Is there a setting?" And we're like, "Just say
There's no
remember."
button.
No, it's odd. It's early days for them too.
No, I find the problem when I use Word, it's always defaulting to.
Yes.
Oh, it drives
Yeah.
me nuts. I can never keep it on the Australian dictionary.
So we've seen some people that I would thought bring a critical eye to it, especially in the English learning area. I feel like they're the department that's probably affected quite highly, and probably has as well.
Yes.
But the English department, like a lot of what you teach in that subject, ChatGPT and LLMs are very good at doing.
That's their strength.
And even then, one of the teachers showed me he wrote quite an extensive prompt, and in front of me, he hadn't looked at the answer. He hit go,
Yes.
and he read it, and he goes, I actually like that. That's pretty good. And there you go. That's a good win.
A task or just a.
He was trying to query a certain level of questioning that would cover like his requirements. In all honesty, the prompt was quite large. I didn't read exactly what he was looking at. But from what he got out of it, he was very happy with it. And like I said, he would be the type of person that just goes, no, this is junk. I can't use it. So it was quite good. On the funny side of things, I saw one that they asked it a question, and they'd asked a multiple, like following along the chat.
Yes.
And it got to a point and it just goes, it literally actually said, I don't want to talk about this right now.
Really?
And just stopped. Yeah, that was what it said. So she goes, the staff members, I can't remember. It was something about like doing something in, I don't know, it was an educational thing. And then I went, so I was standing, I'm like, I don't know. So I wrote, I do actually want to talk about it right now. And then it went, okay then. And it just kept going. So it was like this odd moment. And then another staff member, I thought this was funny, and it's really hard to explain, but a staff member got it to make some day one material for the students in the class. And he had created what she wanted, and there was like 3, and they were images, but it said, she said to her, can you now put that in a Word document?
Yep.
At which point it looked like it put it in a Word document, but what it had done is created an image of Word with the 3 images inside it. And even it took me a minute to realize what it had done.
It was a picture of Word with pictures in it.
Yes, it was a picture of Word with pictures inside it. And I
this
think
was recently. This was.
Oh, this was like 2 weeks ago. When I read back what she'd written from the start, I could almost see the logical progression of where it got confused. And I think this is fundamental going back to AI is you still have to...
Yeah, because she should put in as opposed to export to a Word document.
Yeah, and I think she should have started with saying almost, I want to create a document that will do these sorts of things. Because along the way...
I would go produce it, and then you then, now I want you to export it out to it, so you get an output for it.
That's right.
Once you're happy with what the results are.
Yeah. So it was quite funny. I really did.
It literally did what she asked.
It did. It got there in the end. So no, that was quite funny. But I think even also because she wasn't tech savvy, she couldn't actually see what it had done. She's what is going on. And I guess it was my skills that came in and then just went, oh, I see. And then
hopefully she had a good laugh.
We figured it out a different way as you do. Oh, and the other one I thought, I suppose it's another example of going bad, but it brought back, we tried to say to our staff is we did discuss the environmental impacts and things like that of what we're doing. Yeah. And we tried to say that only use it when you see a benefit. Don't consider these things when you go to use it. I had a staff member come up and say, oh, I've got a picture of, I don't know, some part. I think it was a cell or something. When you talk to biology teachers, they give you a nice diagram.
Yes.
And then they went, I've asked it to put an arrow pointing at one of the parts for a label, and it was doing a really bad job of it. And I stopped her and I said, wouldn't it be easier if you just draw the label on yourself while that image is in Word?
Yeah.
And she's
or taking the camera or something like
that's
like
it.
that.
Exactly. So it was like, I don't like I think you got to remember, yes, it's very clever, but she'd spent time multiple
I think that's the
prompting.
problem I find with it is often that first output is really good.
Yeah.
It's when you go to modify it, it starts to go askew.
Oh, it
starts to move things you don't want. Just put an arrow in there and then it'll put an arrow here.
Yes. And what she was showing me was completely ludicrous. Like it was wrong. And I can understand her getting annoyed with it. But at the same time, it was like, maybe this isn't the tool to use, like, this job.
That part of it, that part. Yeah, and that's what I find, like, so back the coding, it'll fix this and break something else. And it's easy, you get it and drop it in Canva or something like that. Which is going out. Have you got on the try and use PowerPoints? Create PowerPoints with it? Or I pay for Gamma, and that's brilliant. I played with Google NotebookLM, and I find that's good, but it exports everything as PDFs. And then there's guys, I'll watch a YouTube guy online, you're saying, PDF, it's easier. Then you put it into PDF to PowerPoint, convert it, you drop it into, that's a lot of work. Whereas I can just go for some Gamma, and it'll do I can export whatever format I want straight up. I can edit it like a normal. How well does it do? Have you ever tried doing a PowerPoint?
So one of the things that Copilot has is, I think it's called Pages, off the top of my head, is when you finish your prompt and you've got like an answer, you could actually say, make this a Word document, make this a PowerPoint, but it does have an ability to bring it up in this editable Pages view.
Okay.
And then you can modify and drag things around.
So it doesn't take it out to like PowerPoint itself?
No, but then you can say export as a PowerPoint. So we've done that with a few things, but I think the basic feedback that we're seeing from staff that do try is, yes, it makes a PowerPoint, but it's pretty rudimentary. Okay. It does give you it's bare minimum sort of quality. Yeah. Another noisy car. Yeah. So I think when we've been getting it to produce material or go deep in that material, we're finding that, I suppose, up to the level of what is a good teacher standard. Yeah. But if you bought some cheap package off some website, you might be happy with some generic-y sort of bit of information.
If I'm making that, I normally just get to do the outline. But if I get to make it, just basically it's slides which look fine. You export as a PowerPoint, but they're all just text and with a white background.
Yeah, and it does have color backgrounds, but it is very basic. I do know that Copilot does offer a higher tier payment, and then if you pay for that, then because even the free one, there is a button in all Microsoft apps because they're just plugging it beyond belief. But every app there's a button that says Copilot.
Yes,
and from what essentially I understand is the free one can't necessarily talk to the document it's looking at. Though I have seen I think they were bugs because someone actually said that I don't think it should have actually done what it did. But the free one lets you talk to Copilot, but doesn't necessarily let you reference the document you're looking at.
What helps?
That's it. You could ask, explain this to me, and then you could copy and paste it directly into the PowerPoint. But in the paid one, it can see the document you got open. I haven't necessarily played with it too much, but I'm assuming that would give you that level of, on this slide, can you do this? It would be interesting to see some of that.
Maybe you did start PD. Is there plans for a follow-up PD or no?
Yeah, a part of the process. And in some ways, this is your, when as a school introduce a new idea, if you're serious about it, you follow a pathway. This is our big year for introduction. So year one is that introduction year and seeing what we can do before we push further in year two, which would be next year. But essentially we're doing, the main ones is termly PD sessions based around different sort of topics. And we might get another guest speaker in or something to bring their opinions in. We'll see how that goes and build policies and stuff around it. And once we get a bit more understanding of what it's get that through. We're also doing bringing in the techie brekkie idea.
Oh, yes.
So we're going to have an AI morning discussion just before school starts, and staff can come in, share their ideas, and we can share what we're doing. And then we're going to do, a monthly newsletter. And in that newsletter, I think we'll have to sit and discuss what we're going to do, but I think it would be good to have some of the good ideas we'd seen in those brekkies.
Yes,
So when people have
collate
gone,
them and
collate
stories.
them and share them. And then also, I think we're looking at what information about what's going on in AI can be shared. I suppose the key things that have happened that could be of interest to the teachers, but being mindful of, like, we in some ways don't want to talk about the competition too much, as in like we wouldn't necessarily reference ChatGPT, but it could be key interesting things. But also there's news about AI every single day. And to release
but I think there's so much. That's
it's going to
what
be.
I started doing in my podcast. I have a Monday tech updates, 5 minutes. It's the top 5 things that happened in the last week because there's so much.
Yes. And I think you showed me before is like in ChatGPT, you could say, give me the best articles for the month. It might be interesting. We might end up doing something like that. I use the agent to go do that. And I do that Monday podcast. I send it out and go, what's the top 5 stories in the context in terms of educators specifically? Yes.
And so you don't have to go looking for them.
No.
But now, obviously, it's great now because you just click on it and you can go read the original.
Yes.
Oh, no, that's relevant or not relevant. So that makes it much easier.
So I think the plan going forward, like I think we've got that solid start and we'll see what happens. And I think a lot of our staff there was, I think, a sense of relief because some staff have been wanting to use AI and been asking to use it, but we couldn't feel comfortable saying, yes, we're going to let you use a platform. Yeah. And I think what Microsoft did leave them. I wait for the wind to go away. It's really windy. With this product that came out late last year, it was perfect timing for what we wanted to do.
Yeah, and I think it's really good that the staff and the students are actually using the same platform.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really helpful because they're on the journey together. And I think the students will teach the staff a lot of lots of tips and tricks.
And I've been in the classroom because I often, being that tech background, I like to challenge kids with using tech speak. So even the other day, I was first lesson and I was doing the marshmallow challenge, or where you have to try and get a marshmallow as high as you can. Good team building, good introduction. It allowed me to get to know the students a bit in class. And one of them said that we found our spaghetti was a bit out of date. And I said, I'll use ChatGPT to find out if that's safe. Because I do like to, like I say, throw stuff like that out there.
Spaghetti can go out of date.
Apparently dried stuff, you can get 2 years out of it as long as it doesn't change color or something. It should be fine. But anyway, what was funny was one of the students actually said, yes, sir, but we're not allowed to use ChatGPT. We have to use Copilot. Okay. So it was quite funny.
Your students back already, are they?
Yes, they started. We've had them for a good week. So they started
at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's why getting this meeting was hard work. But
it's funny. I was talking about that. But you guys are back so early. I guess the advantage is, especially for your ATAR, they got more time to actually prep going into the exam because they finish so early.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought we get like a bonus week that way, but we do finish early December. And that's like we have boarding students at our school, so a lot of that is inherently to get them back to their farms for harvest. And harvest that's apparently around that time. And I think a lot. That's just like it's been in the school for such a long time, and I don't think it'll be going anywhere.
No, it's just I was seeing the other day that week because obviously I've seen a lot of the private school kids are on the trains and like that. So with the public schools, we're all back in tomorrow actually.
Yes.
Which will be very exciting for another school. A short term, then a long term.
Yes, for sure.
Which is coming in there. So I guess we'll cover a lot, which is fantastic. What we suggest to teachers new to AI or just getting into it, where do you reckon they should start? Obviously, you got your school experience, but personally as well. If a teacher comes to you, where do I go or what do I do? And think, any teacher, not necessarily a teacher at your school.
Especially now, like if you're a Google or Microsoft school, look at what the free products are being offered. If your admin don't know about what's being offered at the moment, it's a great time because, like I said, that Copilot one just came seemingly
at the right time
and kind of out of nowhere. And it was just switched on for us all. Like the free one was just because we are a Microsoft 365 school, we didn't have to do anything to get that going. It's just there. Yes. So if you're a teacher and your school has Office, you probably have the Copilot online.
Yes.
And just start jumping in and having a look at it. There are people that offer courses on it. The basic things you can do is just start doing that prompting, asking it like what you can do. Copilot has a good remember feature. You just say, remember this, and it will remember it. And does a pretty good job. And then just go from there. And the other advantage of these ones that we really liked is you should feel like safer uploading documents and accessing, say, like your OneDrive that belongs to whatever school you're at, and it shouldn't be doing that. And I think in Australia specifically, as far as I know, it's all like Australian sort of data centers and all things like that. I think that's
the push to actually get that permission under our data privacy laws. It's to be stored within Australia for our education systems.
And I don't say don't use like ChatGPT. I've said it to the teachers at our school is maybe that's your personal one. So you still use that and then use Copilot for work. It's probably better to have two platforms, in some ways, because you don't want to do your personal stuff on your work account.
No, you don't. No. Especially if the school has access.
I mean, I, over the holidays, tried to physiotherapy myself through using ChatGPT, which ended in some very interesting ones. But, when I went to the real physio, he was very interested to see how I went and what it was saying and how close he's going. Am I out of a job? And I'm like,
Now, when you did that, did you get experts in the type of injury and things and you feed that information into your chat, or would you just do it?
No, I was just doing a generic chat, and it was on the paid version of ChatGPT. It wasn't on the free one at that stage. I was paying for it. But it was very funny that around that time I was learning lots about, though I haven't seen Copilot do it as much, but the idea where maybe I think ChatGPT is a bit famous for it, where it tries to make you feel really smart and clever. I think it's the sycophancy.
They're slowly disappearing out.
But I was asking it, I would be saying, because I do lots of running, it rolled my ankle. I'd say things like, I was working through, give me a back to running sort of program. Yeah. And it was giving me this stuff and I was doing it. I'd be going, my ankle's still really sore. Yeah. Do you think I should take a day off between the programs? Right, yeah. And it would be that's a really great idea. But at the same time, I'm like, why didn't you suggest that when you wrote the program? Maybe you should take a day off. So I was finding it if I asked a question that was leading, it would give me a response that was quite, oh, wow, look, you're a genius, for asking me that question. And it made me in my mind go, I'm not really sure about if I want that AI.
I know most models do this, and that's why they have to release the old one because people got emotionally attached to the positive feedback.
That's right.
I do the same thing. I've got the home gym, and so my kids do particular sports, so they do different sports. And what I'll do is I'll bring in people I like, as it's seen on YouTube, people who run programs, they sell it. I say, based on these people, these models are their philosophy of things.
Yes.
And then I'll outline, you can take a photo of all your gym equipment. So there's all the racks and things and the battle ropes and the sleds. There's all the equipment I've got. Design a program 5 times a week, working on these particular strengths or conditioning for these muscles. One of my daughters plays AFL football. She wants to work in midfield. So we've been on a program where building in strength and acceleration, power acceleration. So for people doing Aussie rules, you're in packs, so you got to try and get the ball and accelerate out and get some clear space. So basically, based on that, strengthening and lower bodies, limbs, and glutes and things like that, power, short distance running, and then it'll come up with a really good program 3 days a week. Yeah. But like I said, I have to feed in people I know that write really good programs for these sort of type of athletes. By putting that, I end up with a far better result. And essentially, I would go through manually do it. I could look at think, I like this exercise that does these, and you do all your own research. I found that I would then put it together for you, and then I'll modify it. So no, I don't want to do this one. That's wrong for a female to do that sort of thing. But you put their age in there, that's what they want to do in the state at the moment. And it comes up with fairly good. But like I said, I've fed all these different philosophies and experts. And because it's all online, they can actually draw on that. Yeah. So I use a guy who does a lot of knees over toes. He does for people with knees, so strengthening the knees and things like that. So I put you see a lot of his exercises will then appear in the program because, this is the person I'm drawing on to build their strength and the activities he actually does. So,
and I think that's that's a great one to play with and just see what sort of responses you're coming back with. I think it's important to experiment with some of this sort of stuff so that you can really understand it. Imagine if it was a world we go back in time that we said to you, there's this thing called Google and you can search for information, but only use it at work. Never search for anything in your personal life. Like, it would be odd to do that.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with AIs. Yes, use it in your workplace to save you time, but then use it in your everyday life and see like what sort of responses. But the caveat would be is like still seek that expert opinion, like when it counts.
Yes.
With my physio, I still went to a physio.
Well, again, we also she was having an issue. We went to the physio, which unrelated to the thing, but then he talked about what exercise, and we actually went through what she said and got the approval from. Yeah, that's the right thing you're doing.
Yeah.
Some other injury she had. We just thought, oh, we've been doing these sort of exercises.
Yes.
A number related to what we
My story ended with I went to the physio and the physio diagnosed it and said it was an ATFL tear, which is a ligament tear just around the ankle. And then when I got home, the chat that I'd been using with ChatGPT, I said, what was your diagnosis again of what I've done?
Yeah.
And it said, oh, you've torn a tendon. And I said, could it be an ATFL tear? And it said, no, it's not an ATFL tear. And I said, then replied, I've just been to my physio and it says it's an ATFL tear. At which point it goes, oh yeah, it probably would be an ATFL tear there. And I was just like, okay, this is...
And that's why you don't, it's not using Dr. Google,
no,
Dr. AI.
Definitely not. But it was still,
At least it didn't say you had cancer.
No,
Like,
oh my
everyone
God. I don't think it would.
People, doctor, every symptom is cancer.
Yeah. And that's where it is interesting because I do think it's a good starting point for those sorts of questions. So you could start with it and just get some general idea, but just I wouldn't bet my life on it.
I wonder,
at the
was it
moment.
swollen or anything they did?
Oh, I actually full on rolled my ankle.
So if you took a photo of it
Oh,
swollen,
I did. I gave it a photo.
I did. You did.
Yeah, I put a photo of my foot in and said,
I was curious.
what have I done? And I gave it a bit of description and like I full on tried to see what I could do with it. And at the same time, my sister-in-law's a doctor and she just book a physio. And I'm like, I'm going to see what ChatGPT does, which she was devastated. But like, I think like in some ways it's unharmful as long as you're realistic at the same time.
Yes. And that's the problem. The people who believe it wholeheartedly.
Yes.
That's where the problems come in.
And also I always think I do this a lot to be a parent as well, is like saying like your children are going to be exposed to it as if they're doing it and you're not monitoring that. It's another good example of staying on top of tech that is going to influence your children and being mindful of that.
There's plenty of cases of that where people go down almost a rabbit hole, a bit like people do on conspiracy theories online. They get there and they start getting reinforcing answers.
Yes.
That validates their worldview.
Yes.
Clear or
And
not.
it's like, just like anything is like when your child comes to you and says, hey, I've seen this, you can say, oh, just remember that there's bias involved and things like that.
Agendas
What was your
propaganda.
question? What was it like just trying to get them
People
down
think
that.
about something.
Yes.
Question everything.
Oh, definitely. I think more this day and age, you have to.
So I guess when you're doing teaching with staff, I like central. I talk about podcasts is teacher expertise is central to everything. Did you really highlight that to them?
I think so. I think we very much focused on they're the experts. They're teaching, and that's why they're employed to do their job. Don't do anything in the AI that you don't know the answer to that you're going to take into a classroom.
Oh, yes.
We've said it to our staff before. You can't use the excuse, oh, AI told me it was true. As soon as you hand it over, it belongs to you. Like you've got to take that ownership. So I feel like that's very important. And I don't think we would be encouraging just a blanket, write my program for the year and just follow it. But it could be like those.
But everyone does that. But when we put enough resources, it does a really good job.
Yeah, I was using it and I told you stuff like this as I was making a program. And I found what actually happened is it was a great brainstorming opportunity because as I said, write me a year program to do this. And it was like tied to the WA curriculum and I did all the prompting and asked me, say, is there any more things you need to know to solve this? And it kicked it out. And as I'm reading, I'm like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that.
Yes.
But what it then came out is I went, I think I know what I actually want to do now. Because I've seen like some ideas and I've also thought I don't want to do that. It led my brain to the place that I wanted to go to. And I found that valuable in itself.
What I find like doing is I put the assessments, the final. We usually have 2 assessments a term. Put final and then ask at the back map, make sure I covered all the skills.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Going through. the different assessments. Because even when I was chatting at work, we said, we've only got 9 weeks.
Yes.
And the view was obviously, you don't have to do everything. Just make sure you teach them the skills and knowledge that allow them to do the assessments first. And then you can choose whatever you do. So some schools are very mandated, whereas we're like, as long as you teach us, give them the opportunity to do well in the assessment, you teach that, you can then choose whatever you want around that to actually do the rest of your, I guess, your program, which is quite flexible. It also gives a bit more freedom for teachers' choice. They have no ideas to do something that, okay, hopefully more engaging with your students. Try us.
Have I answered that one?
I think I did. No, it was good.
Yeah, okay.
That was good. That's cool. I think I'll probably wrap it up there. We've been going close to 50 minutes.
Yeah.
It's really good. We've really been having a chat. We have to come back on again.
Oh, yes.
Sometime in 6 months or something, I reckon.
You can keep this bit in there if you want to, but I was like, I said to Kane before this started, is like being interviewed about AIs, it's like my mind changes on it hourly. There's so much information out there.
Yeah.
Every time you look at your, especially I follow quite a tech newsy feed if I can, and there's always odd stuff coming up, and I think it's staying on top of it all is very difficult. But I think essentially it's use a critical eye and all this sort of stuff. So when someone's telling you, look, this will solve all your problems, just be mindful of it probably won't.
And that's why you should be on the podcast, because you need that differing opinion and ideas that AI is good, but it has all the issues around it.
Yes.
And a lot of people I talk to, we look at the wonderful, the impact side of it, which is really, really good. But then you raise a lot of the environmental side. Even though, what's his name, the header of OpenAI says, stop saying thank you.
Yeah.
It costs us millions and millions of dollars and processing power for the response thing when you just type thank you and when you get a response.
Yes. And also, shouldn't that handle locally without going off to some like massive data center?
Yeah. But
maybe they should get AI to write their code. I think that's the goal, isn't
slower. Be bloated and slow.
Anyway.
Anyway, thank you for coming on today.
No problem. I've enjoyed it.